Hello and welcome to this UK column special edition. We are delighted to have Eric Levy with us. Now, Eric, some of you may know, some of you may not, but Eric is 92 years old, and he was the gentleman who attended the court hearing of Julian Assange and then had the experience of being literally grabbed by the police and, we understand, taken home. So we're very pleased this afternoon to be able to speak to him live to find out exactly what happened at the incident and to get a little bit more understanding of how the police really responded to him. So I will say straight away, Eric, thank you very much for joining us. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear okay? Hello, Eric.
Yes, I can hear you, but I didn't hear if you were asking a question.
Oh, okay. So, Eric, I think what we'll do first of all is show the viewers the little film footage.
No, we can ask questions and we show the film as we're doing that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, we can do that. So, Eric, simple question straight away. What made you attend the court hearing for Assange? Why did you want to go and attend that particular hearing?
Well, because he speaks for all of decent, enlightened humanity, whether it's in England or worldwide in any other country, including countries we might disapprove of. And he speaks for peace, for national liberation, for self-determination, of course, of peoples, and against racism, against male supremacy, against war. And I think it's important that he should be able to speak, because ordinary people like you and me, well, we're not going to get on television. Whatever we say is probably not going to be printed, even if we're occasionally interviewed. It's very much celebrities, an awful term, celebs, no important, no less important sometimes, but I think, I believe more in the unsung heroes and heroines than in those who get a lot of credit. But there are, of course, some people who are well known, and yes, they will be interviewed on TV. They'll be seen and heard more often than the ordinary people. But I still think it's the masses of people who are the true heroes and heroines, and often the elite, even the best of leaders. And if you want who said that. Very controversial statement, but I stand by him. This is great Mao Zedong of China, who said, "We often are childish and ignorant, and the people are the true heroes and heroines, and we take their ideas, we summarize them, because sometimes they might be long-winded. I hope I'm not being now, but they,
No, Eric,
yeah, we need to summarize." So yes, it was. Julian is important for this reason,
Yeah, that's really excellent. And can you tell us how many people were at that particular event? Did you go on your own, or did you have friends with you?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, friends, of course, from the campaign. We were outside the Old Bailey for the duration of the court hearing, and we'd been there before, going to Belmarsh Prison to protest about Julian's imprisonment. And then we went down to Piccadilly, where we could reach many of the ordinary British people and try to convince them how important it was to have Julian freed, because he really speak for all of us. We're outside the court of Westminster. I'd say roughly 50 people, so something like the 30 or 40 of us, and some other people who agreed with us, who didn't necessarily attend our meetings regularly, our protest meetings. So we were all there. And my feeling was, well, I'm one person. Why, I said to the police, tell me to leave. Then you probably want all of us to leave, which of course was the case. And it proved so, because after I was taken into a room where I could no longer be with people. The others also were, I think, cleared away by the police. So, yeah, to us, Julian is, we often say, I am Assange, Assange is me. We said this, going back in my experience, we said this about the Kurds in Turkey. I am Öcalan, and Öcalan is, we go back to even fiction of I Am Spartacus. You've seen that film, which incidentally is not what was, I think, in the book, but the book by Howard Fast was banned in the United States for 9, 10 years. I don't know if you know about this. The film was made towards the end. Anyway, it's said, I am Julian, and Julian is a true representative of what we think and feel. As I said, decent, enlightened people. But I would emphasize the two, because you can be decent and be kept in ignorance by the media, which is the case in Nazi Germany and is the case in Britain today and in the United States today.
Right. Eric, on screen, we can actually see some of the film footage, and it's clear that the police are focusing on you. Why did the police come for you?
Okay. So, of course, because they can say that I am, well, they say at that age you're more vulnerable than people of a younger age, which may or may not be true. I think as a generalization, perhaps. But I said to them, why me? Because I'm part of all the people there, and you will probably want to stop them also from demonstrating, which, as I said, proves to have been the case anyway. It's very clear they were against all of us who are protesting. So I'm the first of a bunch, but first to last to second, I think is a wonderful statement, although I'm not religious, that as long as you do it unto the least of mine, you do it unto me. So I thought, yes, they do the least of, I was perhaps the least of the demonstrators in the sense of perhaps just being one person. Maybe, okay, I won't live as long as the rest of them, but I say power to the young people, carry on struggling. We're all very important. So it doesn't matter who's more important, less important. I'm not more, I'm not less. And I said, what they do to me, yes, they'll be doing to others later on. And as I said, it proved to be the case.
Yeah. Eric, it takes courage to stand up to the police. I've had the pleasure of the police coming to my home on 3 occasions. I've had the police at the UK column office on 1 occasion, and they always, of course, try and be very officious and domineering if they can. So it does take some courage to actually stand up. What did you say to them as they were beginning to manhandle you away from that group of people?
Yeah. Well, I'd anticipated what you have just said now, that takes courage. I don't really see, sometimes when you concentrate on the struggle rather than on yourself, to some extent we do, we're not practicing self-denial. But I felt, well, should I be afraid of them? There's a wonderful statement mentioned in Vietnam, dare to struggle, dare to win. We're not afraid. And there's a poem by Dominic Behan, who's the brother of Brendan Behan, the poet. It's called The Patriot Game. Come all you young rebels, and list what I sing. Love of one's country is a terrible thing. It banishes fear with the speed of a flame, and makes us all part of the patriot game. The Irish people, certainly supporting them, I already have, and I know it's controversial in Britain. Well, the truth is often controversial. We shouldn't be in Ireland, okay, it shouldn't be in any other country. Okay?
Yeah. So Eric, what do you actually think of the United Kingdom in 2021? You've seen a lot of things around the world.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the situation in UK? For me, I'm now in my mid-60s, but this country has changed beyond all recognition certainly in 30 years. What the scenes I'm witnessing, the police on the streets, the army on the streets, the close down of free speech. You've seen more than me. What's your opinion of UK in 2021?
Yeah, it's a good question. I immigrated to the United States because I thought that in the United States there wasn't, well, no royalty. I mean, I'm against a monarchy. I'm for a republic. Uh, uh, because to me, okay, monarchy, how can it be called democratic? Constitutional monarchy. I mean, I see the monarchy all too often, and I don't see the Constitution at all. I mean, I don't know where it is, written bits and pieces here and there, as lawyers told me. So I went to the United States. But when I was in the United States, of course, critical of a form of fascism, McCarthyism, let's be very clear about that, you see. I intended to go to the United States because I had heard of the United States of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the last great president they've had. Yes, then fine what they were doing. Of course, I was also aware of the injustice towards the African American people, but I said, well, that's naturally a fight I'll have to wage, but and help others. But I thought maybe when I was there, maybe Britain doesn't have some of the wrongs that the United States has. Let's say that form of fascism, McCarthyism. But then I also could defend the National Health Service because, again, many Americans said, well, we don't have that, and it would be great if we did. So if you want, whichever country I'm in, I'll criticize first because it's all too easy to criticize another country you're not in it. So I think one has to oppose any injustices, and in doing so, you're a true patriot. The truest patriots in the United States have been people like Tom Paine, in history, okay, from Thetford, Norfolk, I understand, went over there, was partner of Thomas Jefferson, co-author of the Declaration of Independence. He so very clearly wrote his Common Sense, which was against the British occupation of the United States as a colony. That I saw very clearly. But when I came to the United Kingdom, which is what you're talking about. By the way, I don't want to call it the United Kingdom. Britain, I mean, there shouldn't be a kingdom, and certainly no part of Ireland. I mean, if the British want to have a king, that's up to them. So the British, but not the Irish, because the Irish fought their independence, 32 counties. So there are still 6 counties occupied by the British, and this is wrong. It shouldn't be in any part of it. Again, quoting Abraham Lincoln, a nation divided against itself cannot stand. Well, a house divided against itself cannot stand. The nation cannot longer endure, half slave and half free. So the occupation of Ireland is wrong too. So I'll stand for the British people.
Okay, so here's the question for you, for Eric. That was very
Yeah,
interesting analysis you've just given us. My question for you is,
sure.
you've talked that we've heard of McCarthyism.
Hmm?
How would you describe the regime that's running this country? Are we in a democracy in Britain in 2021?
Well, it's certainly, like all capitalist countries, it's the ruling class is a minority. It's the same in the United States. The United States often deny it's a class society because on the surface it doesn't seem to be so. People dress pretty much the same way and so forth. But there is that too of a minority dominating a majority. Jeremy Corbyn said it very well, the rule of the many rather than the rule of the few. And the many is, first of all, the working class and its allies, those who support it, and not those who support a privileged minority. So, what can I say about
I
Britain,
think
except that,
what we could perhaps
as
add.
in the United States too, socialism is the system of the future. I know some of you may not accept this, but I think you should, in that you all agree that capitalism was a better system than feudalism. You all agree that feudalism was a better system than slavery. So there is progress, and I think that democracy really must be for the majority, and the majority are not capitalists.
Yeah, and of course we need to
Okay.
judge.
You got to
We
look into here, yeah.
That's okay. We can see you, Eric. So of course the other thing that goes with it is judging people as individuals, judging them by what they say and do, and not by the labels. Can I just come back to the police again? Just finish off the story. The police,
Sure.
did they actually arrest you, or did they simply physically hold you and detain you? And then what happened?
Well, they did both in that they said you were under arrest. Okay, so when they were, as you can see in pictures, I was resisting, so I wouldn't accept it. Anyway, they dragged me out and took me to a room. There was nobody in that room except the police, and then later on they put me in a car. And I thought they were driving me to the police station because I've been arrested 2, 3 times in the last few years. Usually not held very long. But this time I thought it'd be the same thing. But no, I noticed when they were driving, looking at the buildings, they were going in the direction of my home, which is what they did. So they took me home. Of course, that was their contention all the time, that people should stay home and not be outside except for a lawful purpose. Well, what could be more lawful than to free Julian Assange so the truth can be heard? Because the other journalists were either intimidated or threatened with expulsion if they did speak the truth. So, and of course, many of them perhaps did not know the truth either. Well, I don't
Right.
want to say many because I think most people who, with some education about political education, knowing something about the world, would realize that we shouldn't have to have one war after another after World War II, I mean, World War II was thought to be the last, and even go back to World War One, which is called the War to End All Wars, and they have World War II. Well, I can agree with the exception here that with the Nazism, the threat to dominate the whole world, you had to fight against that. So I think that was a just war. World War One was an unjust war, just as unjust towards Germany as it was towards Britain and, well, Russia, Soviet Union. And of course, it was the Soviet Union that decided not to carry on with World War One, which, as you know, ended in 1918. So they had the revolution in 1917. That's correct. And that's what needed to be done everywhere.
And Eric, would
So
you agree with me
I
if
have a
I
feeling I'm somehow not answering your question fully, but anyway, go ahead.
No, your answers are fine. Would you agree with me if I
Mhm.
made the statement that, of course, if we had proper free speech, if people like Julian
Mhm.
Assange was able to speak out and tell us
Yeah.
the truth to the best of his knowledge, and we had other people who were able to speak out publicly and tell the truth, we would be in a much better position to avoid these wars that have been started around the world. It seems to me very often the wars have started because populations in whatever country, Germany, Britain, Russia, France, wherever it has been, the populations have not been told the truth.
Excellent question. Excellent. Very, very good. Because that is just it. You see, we talk about democracy. Okay, the overwhelming majority of in Nazi Germany, as it was then, well, before at the start, voted for Hitler. Now, does that mean that the German people are not as smart as the British people? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that they were told lies by Dr. Goebbels, Hitler's Ministry of Propaganda, said you tell a big lie, tell it often enough, people will believe it. So here they're also telling a big lie, and people are going to believe it. Russians are coming. There's never any plan on the part of the Russians to attack Britain. If you want to go back even to Karl Marx, I mean, he said the revolution can't be exported. So of course they had the revolution in the Soviet Union against the Tsar, and they were very proud of that. And who can deny that it was necessary? But they said, Britain, well, you decide. The Red Army isn't going to come over here and tell us what to do. We'd laugh at them. We'd say, well, you guys don't even speak English and you don't know our customs and so forth. So, yes, once people know the truth, and that's what I said, and that's why they're holding Julian Assange prisoner, and the rest of us, well, we're not going to be invited to speak. And if we try to speak for one reason or another, they'll try to shut us up. So look at what happened to Jeremy Corbyn, look what happened to Ken Livingstone, what happened to Chris Williamson. I'm going to deal with those, I hope, those three people in a little while longer.
Okay, Eric, a really lovely summary, and I totally agree with you. If we can keep the free speech going, I think we're doing the best we possibly can to fight for the societies that we live in. I'm going to add that we're up on the stops for time this time. I think I'd like to speak to you a bit more about what you're talking about, the Russians and the revolution there, because the start of the Russian Revolution was certainly based on lies, part of that being a bread shortage, but we'll keep that for another time. So I'm going to say we only saw the clip on the internet. We saw what you were doing. You were standing up for free speech. You were challenging the police. So we'd like to say, Mike and myself here at the UK column would like to say thank you very much for what you did, and thank you for having the courage to stand up and take on the constabulary. Final question, just a short one. What would you say, you're 92 years old, what would you say to the young people in this country today? What should they be doing in order to make sure that people still have free speech?
Yeah, keep on fighting, you know. Okay, it's great what you're doing with young people, especially. I mean, do I have to go back to Greta Thunberg, 18 years old now? It's wonderful, and all the other people too. I mentioned one song by Dominic B, and I mentioned another. Freedom doesn't come like a bird on the wing. It doesn't come down as the falling rain. Freedom's a hard-won thing. You got to work for it, fight for it, sometimes die for it. And every generation has got to win it again. Every generation, right? So you can't just say, we fought for that on World War II and that's it. No, every generation. Thomas Jefferson said there should be a revolution every 20 or 30 years. I know that people won't necessarily agree with that, or who don't know what's meant by revolution. But anyway, the young people are fighting, yes, and that's no coincidence that they joined the movement to get Jeremy Corbyn elected. It's really tough because you had a golden opportunity once in 100 years, and it didn't happen. But maybe they came pretty close, and I hope we do it again.
Well, Eric, thank you very much for that. I think you're absolutely right. It's keep fighting, and it's up to each generation.
Keep fighting, young people power, and you'll win. And all people should follow you.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us this afternoon. Really excellent, and we'll be interested to see how things progress with Julian Assange.
Indeed.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.